back to Too Cool for Middle School. A couple videos ago was my 100th video and asked you for some questions that I could answer in a future video, which is this one. So I've got a few of your questions on my phone here, and I'll just go through these and try and answer as best as I can. I always like doing these videos because then I know I'm addressing something that at least one person, genuinely wanted to know. I only charged my battery about halfway, so we'll just see how far we get here. Teacher 3 asks, what are your tips for being so sick with morning sickness and having to go to school and teach all day? If that is your situation, I feel for you, I understand. I mean, part of it is just like, you just get through, you just do it. But my best suggestion, I think, is to eat breakfast for sure. Before I got pregnant, I would usually not remember to eat breakfast, but ever since I got pregnant, what I would eat always is a whole wheat English muffin, and I would toast that, and then I would take half of an avocado and kind of squish that on top of the English muffin, salt, pepper, and maybe a little like red pepper flakes sometimes, and like a slice of tomato, and then I would just wrap that up in a paper towel and take it with me and eat it in the car and try not to spill on myself. And that really helped to keep me from being sick, at least at the beginning of the day. Brittany says, you're such an inspiration as I'm going through a teacher certification program. Thank you and good luck. I'm a substitute now and would love some insight on your experiences as one, stories, suggestions, what have you. I think she means as a substitute. So I actually didn't get to substitute very much, but I think kind of the story of why I didn't get to substitute very much tells you a lot about our education system. So I'll just tell you really quick. In 2010, when I got my teaching credential, the state was in a horrible budget crisis. That was right in like the middle of the recession. My husband and I lived in Riverside, and there were just no jobs out there. That was one of the places that got hit really, really hard by the recession. So my husband had gotten a job as a researcher at a university, and we moved out toward the Long Beach area. And so I thought, well, I had applied for jobs. I had applied for about 200 teaching jobs. In California, we use the EdJoin system, so it keeps track of all the jobs you applied for. So I knew how many I'd applied for, and I did not get picked up. I figured I would just sub once we got out to Long Beach, but the situation in that school district was they had had to lay off teachers all the way up to people who had 12 years of experience or less. So anybody who, if you'd been teaching for 10 years, 11 years, 12 years, and anything below that, you lost your job, you got laid off. My husband worked as a researcher in a school, and he watched this lady who had been teaching for 12 years. A couple days into the school year, they let her know she actually didn't have a position, and she packed up her boxes and took them out to her car, and it was devastating for so many people. So since so many teachers had gotten laid off, any job openings, districts were of course going to take somebody that had 12 years of experience over anybody who was new, because they could get all these super qualified teachers who were pretty desperate for jobs. And then the other thing was they decided that the only people who they would call for substitute jobs was teachers who were laid off, so that they could at least get paid. And I think they got paid like their full, like the daily rate that a teacher would get paid. And so they did not hire any substitutes at that time. So I couldn't even apply to be a substitute. They weren't taking any applications. They just gave all the jobs to laid off teachers, and they kind of had like a rotation system. And in most districts in Southern California, that's the way it was. So I really didn't get to do much subbing. I only subbed during my student teaching. I just got into teaching at like a really weird and scary and dangerous time. So that's always one thing to consider about going into a job that, is dependent upon tax money and dependent upon how people handle a budget. So it's a little bit scary. I'm always kind of waiting for that next cycle for that to happen to me. So yeah, it's a little scary. Oh, she also asks if you have any tips for a capsule wardrobe or essentials for a teacher's closet. For me, some of my essential things are like colored skinny jeans, so maybe like black skinny jeans or like olive green skinny jeans, and then like tunic length shirts, kind of like blouses, you know, that maybe are like long sleeves or 3/4 length, and that just, you know, kind of hit like a little below the waist. I think that's a fairly professional look, and it's something easy for me to just kind of throw together in the morning if I have a couple different just like mix and match options of those. I usually wear like wedges with that too, and like a long necklace. So that's kind of my typical teacher outfit. Casey asks, what is your go-to activity if you don't know what else to do for a class period? Well, I don't think that's ever happened. I don't think I've ever had a class period where I didn't have a lesson. It's usually the opposite. Like I usually just don't get to finish what I had planned, and sometimes it'll just bleed over into the next day. So I always have stuff that I'm trying to finish up. The only class that I ever maybe have that situation with is the drama class that I teach. Since we literally have no curriculum whatsoever, they just like put me in a room with all these kids and I'm supposed to teach them drama. That happens occasionally. And one of like my favorite go-to activities and their favorite go-to activities is called 2-minute movie. And so I just break them up into groups. I usually use this as an opportunity to kind of like mix up the groups a little bit and kind of get them out of their comfort zone. And they just come up with a movie that they've all seen, and then they have to act it out in 2 minutes, and we kind of have to be able to like guess what the movie is. And so it always ends up being pretty fun, and it's something you can do in about a class period. You just don't give them very much time. It's kind of like a quick creative activity. It gets the kind of their improv skills going, their teamwork skills going. They have to figure out a way to like portray these major events in the movie, but do it really quickly. I don't know if that works for every subject area, maybe just more for like elementary or for drama, but that can be kind of a fun activity to do. This one I don't know quite how to pronounce. Osmosi says, I have a school-related question. What do you make your students do during detention? Best wishes from Switzerland. I love that we can like connect with people all over the world. This is so cool. Actually, one of my favorite things about our school is that we have somebody who runs detention. So if I assign detention to a kid, I don't sit in there with them. I wasn't the one that messed up, they were. So they have to go at snack and at lunch to a specific room. And sometimes they have to like write an apology letter or like make up their work or whatever it is. I'm not exactly sure. They get their food and stuff and they just go to that room and they serve their detentions at snack and lunch. We can't really keep them after school because if they had to take the bus and then they missed the bus, that wouldn't really be fair. So we just keep them in during their free time. If they're gonna waste class time, then we're gonna waste their free time. So I love that. I don't have to run detention. Thank goodness. Oh, this is a cool question. Samantha asks, what is the biggest or best lesson you have learned from teaching? And one of the things that has just kind of like become more clear to me as I've been a teacher is kind of, you know, like the idea that it takes a village to raise a child. And it's just made me very aware of the teachers that I had that influenced me. Like I had a drama teacher in middle school, you know, that I did musical theater and plays and stuff with. And that's really where I learned anything that I know about musical theater and putting on a play. But I do that now. I can pass that down to my students. And I had a 8th grade history teacher who was very influential, and now I teach 8th grade US history. And so I'm kind of like the product of all these teachers and coaches and youth group leaders and people who poured into my life, and now I can turn around and be that for my students. And then I've kind of seen, like, even as my students grow, they can pass things down to other students. I've got some kids who are my piano students, piano and voice. I taught piano and voice lessons for 8 years or 9 years, I think, all the way through my whole college and a little bit into teaching. And so, you know, I had worked with them for so many years, and now they're in high school. I started with them when they were kindergartners, and now they're in high school. And actually 2 of them came back and they were my choreographers for the play this year. So it's just really cool to see how, like, we share knowledge and share skills, and like we can develop other kids and help them develop their skills. And I love that that's what a school is. I mean, I know that the public education system has its failings and it has its weaknesses, but as long as it's a place where we help to nurture kids and help them to develop their skills, and we pass on what we know and then they pass on what they know to other kids, I just think that is a really cool thing to be a part of. Bella Christina has some cool questions too. How do you deal with difficult parents? And then she has a couple others, but one thing that I try to keep in mind when I'm dealing with difficult parents is just to remind them that we each come from a different mindset, and the two of us putting our perspectives together can probably find the answer. So as the parent of a kid, you are just concerned about your kid, right? Like, they need to have the best education possible. They need, every resource available to them. And then as a teacher, I'm coming a little bit more from the perspective of, okay, I have 35 kids for this hour, 175 in my day, but I've got 35 kids and I'm trying to figure out what is the best way that I can serve all of them at one time, and I can make sure that all of them have access to the curriculum and there's not one student that's preventing all of them from learning. So maybe if your kid is that one that is kind of derailing the lessons and distracting everybody, I need to make sure to protect the other 34, but it's great that you are concerned about your one. So maybe we can now talk and figure out a way that we can kind of serve everybody and find something that's going to work out for the one and the many. And sometimes that tends to work. If you have an especially difficult parent, you should have an administrator in the room with you, or a counselor or something like that, just because there are some parents that like to twist your words, and kids that like to twist your words. And so I've noticed that one thing that some parents will do and some kids will do is they will just try and bait you, and they'll just try and get you to say something that you probably shouldn't have said, and then it kind of negates all of their bad behavior and negates everything that they did wrong, and now they can start pointing fingers at you and you have to get all defensive, and suddenly it became about you when it was the kid that was having an issue. So you really have to avoid that at all costs. Don't let them bait you. Don't fall into that trap. But just keep trying to work towards a solution and kind of ignore any attempts to derail the conversation and turn it into something weird and personal. She also asks, what are some of your favorite resources for teaching English? I've mentioned a couple times Flocabulary is one of my favorite resources. I love the videos. I love the worksheets that come with the videos. I also really like News ELA or Newsella. I'm not sure how exactly you're supposed to pronounce it, but they take current news from around the world and kind of level it to different reading levels, and kids can access it at whatever their reading level is. It's informational text, and then there are usually quizzes with every article, so then they can kind of check for understanding, and that's a really cool resource. She also asked, what is your nail care routine? They always look amazing. I do my nails a lot. I do them maybe twice a week. I just did them a couple days ago. And I don't see any chips yet because I use that Wet n Wild One Step Wonder Gel. Totally recommend that. And let's see, how do you deal with negative situations in life or problems? Well, to be honest, I'm a bit of a whiner. Sometimes that's how I deal with negative problems, or negative situations. I just want to vent a little bit. So sometimes just to myself or to my husband, I'll just kind of get things off my chest. But you have to be careful, where you vent. You don't want to vent on Facebook, or sometimes not even to your coworkers or to your administrators or anything. You have to have somebody that you can vent to, like a best friend or a husband or something. But then once I've vented, I try to move on. One of my favorite pieces of advice right now is from the book of Romans, and it says, a mind set on the flesh is death, but a mind set on the spirit is life and peace. And I do totally notice that. Right now, I'm pretty stressed. The other day I was looking around at I have this stack of stuff right here that I need to turn into a thesis, and I've got stacks of baby stuff around, and I have stacks of schoolwork to grade and to get in, and just like everything I looked at was just making me stressed and almost angry. Like, how am I as one person supposed to get all of this done, and I need to get all these done before the baby comes? And it was like death to me, you know, like everything I looked at just made me angrier and angrier. The dishes in the sink just made me angry. And I had to kind of take a step back, and instead of focusing on like the flesh or the world, like the stuff right in front of me, focus on like the spiritual side of life, like the things you can't really see. Like, I have a strong relationship with my husband. I have this healthy baby boy growing inside me. I have the capacity and the knowledge to finish my thesis. I can finish the things that I need to do for my students. It might take me a minute, but just to be grateful for the things that I do have and I am blessed with, that does give me like life and peace. And if I just keep thinking about the negative stuff, it does start to, like, and it sounds dramatic, but like kill you inside a little bit, you know. You can't even move on. So you have to focus on the good things. And one of her last questions is, what are some of the most important ingredients to a happy relationship for you? I just feel like I'm just blessed with the right person. Like, I just married somebody who is really easy to be married to, just somebody who I genuinely look up to. When I started to get to know my husband, he was just genuinely somebody that I thought was so just admirable and so cool. Like, my husband's way cooler than me. Like, I want to be him when I grow up. Like, he's like my role model. Like, I want to handle situations the way that he does. I want to have grace with people the way that he does. I want to be patient like he is. I want to always say the right thing to everyone like he does. Like, I just think he's a great person. So that's probably the first thing, I guess, is just being with somebody who you really admire. And like, if you're gonna be hanging out with them all the time, you want them to rub off on you. And that was one of the things that he told me too, like, because it took a while before we were like official and we were just hanging out. And he was super patient while I got myself together and finally like agreed to like be his girlfriend. But he would just say the same thing, like, I just want to hang out with you. I just want you to rub off on me. Like, you know, I was super busy and doing all these different things, and he's like, I just like that about you. I just want to be around you and like learn from you. And I'm like, well, I want to do the same thing with you. So that's kind of how our marriage has continued to be. Like, we've both just pursued what we were interested in, but alongside each other. So there are definitely times when we don't get to spend very much physical time together because we're both pursuing our passions and pursuing our callings. But then, you know, we always come back together and we're stronger and we can kind of share our experiences and we support each other in what we each do. Like, you know, I've been gone all week. This is my spring break, but I've been gone all day long working on the play and doing play rehearsal. It's the weekend right now, so he is at a basketball tournament. He's always gone on weekends coaching his kids, but like we both know that we're following our callings and we are pouring into the lives of other kids, and we're going to be blessed for that, and that's what makes us happy. And when the baby comes, you know, we may have to adjust our schedules a little bit, but we like to kind of support each other, make each other stronger, and just like inspire each other to do more and be better. And I think maybe that's the most important thing. I don't know. Okay, this is probably getting kind of long. Let's just do a couple more that are maybe a little shorter. This one kind of piggybacks on the last one. How do you balance your time blogging / like time with your hubby? And that's kind of the same answer. Like, I really only make videos on Saturday mornings because on Saturday mornings he's always coaching. So that's just a time when like we have it to ourselves and we can kind of pursue things that we each like to do. And then Saturday nights he comes home and I kind of wrap up what I'm doing with any videos or homework, and then we go out on a date and we get to hang out, and we do that on Fridays too. And so we just kind of have our time scheduled out so that we know when we get to hang out, and then it's like such a nice thing to look forward to, but we don't feel like neglected during the times when we each are working on our own projects. Here's a quick one. How long have you been teaching? This is my 4th year, although my first year I had a 60% position, so I was a part-time teacher. So this is my 3rd year full-time. Most comfortable shoes to wear during pregnancy and for teaching. I am still like such a diva, and I love wearing my Tom's wedges, and people make comments to me every single day. Like even my students and other teachers are like, are you still supposed to be wearing those? I'm like, shh. It works for me. It doesn't like throw off my balance or hurt my feet or anything. So I love my Tom's wedges. I also got some like really cute New Balance sneakers, and so I wear those with like dresses. I'll wear like a bodycon dress and a jean jacket and then like my New Balance sneakers. So I like those kind of shoes. Oh, someone asked if I planned to have my baby over the summer so it wouldn't interfere with teaching. We had actually been trying to get pregnant for a while, so it wasn't exactly planned to this time, but this was totally God's timing, because I don't know what I was thinking. Like, I don't know how I was thinking that I was going to finish my thesis and graduate if I had had the baby any sooner. Like, everything has lined up so perfectly. Right now is crazy. I keep saying that like I'm pregnant during the worst time ever, but I'm gonna give birth during the best time ever. So right now I'm still teaching full-time in 3 different departments, running this whole musical theater production by myself, finishing my thesis, and you know, preparing for the baby. So right now is crazy, but I'm due on June 4th, and so all of those things will be finished by June 4th, and then I'll just have the summer to do absolutely nothing except for take care of my baby. So I'm glad that, you know, like for the beginning of the time when we were trying, it didn't work out, because this was the most perfect timing that there ever could have been. Somebody asked what my ethnicity was, and I get this question on like a weekly, if not sometimes like daily basis, and for some reason people have really strong opinions about what my ethnicity is, and they will try and convince me that I'm like something that I'm not even. I just kind of like to be a brat about it and like not tell people what my ethnicity is and let them go ahead and tell me what they think I am, and then they have all kinds of assumptions, and it's like a very interesting social experiment for me to just observe how people act depending on what they think I am. So yeah, I just always like let people think whatever they want. It's quite fun. I had I had a situation yesterday, yeah, where this guy was like, what ethnicity are you? And I just said, oh, I don't really know. This guy was like, oh, well, obviously you're Puerto Rican because you like do pregnancy easily, like you're running around with this baby and like going all over the place, and it's not even hard for you, which is not really even true, but he was like, so obviously you're Puerto Rican. And I was like, yep. Okay, let's end on this one, because this is kind of the issue that I really started my teaching channel for. So she says, I'm at the point where I'm doing internships and I'm about to start student teaching. I'm super nervous about being in my own classroom one day. Could you give me any advice on first year teaching? For a little bit more like specific advice, I have a couple videos. You have to scroll back on my channel, but just about like tips for the first week of school and like behavior expectations and stuff. Those are probably kind of helpful for people just starting out. But I had just had a lot of experience already working with kids. I had been like a youth group leader and a coach and done a lot of like summer camps and even plays and stuff like that before. I had worked in an after school program, which was really, I kind of hated that job, but it was useful to me. I learned how to work with parents and how to not work with parents. That was the time when I got in a full-on shouting match with this like huge dad. He was like 6'5" and like 350 pounds or something, and was like trying to yell at me and intimidate me, and I just yelled right back at that guy. Yeah, that was kind of fun, but I wouldn't do that anymore. So just getting as much experience as you can beforehand is very helpful, because there's a lot in schools that you kind of have to see through it. But both of my parents are teachers, and actually now my dad's an administrator. And so just from like kind of watching them go through certain things, and my husband too, because he's a teacher, I don't know, we can just sort of see through some things that like parents try to do or kids try to do or administrators try to do. Like, not everybody is honest and not everyone is out there to help you. So you do have to, I mean, this shouldn't be like your main focus, but you do kind of have to like watch your own back and just like make sure that you do things by the book, like you follow protocols and things like that. Like, people can just be real litigious sometimes, you know, parents or students or you know, administrators that don't want to take the fall for something. So you do just have to kind of like be aware of situations and make sure you document things, make sure that you're like covering all your bases. It's so depressing that I even have to say that, but it's a reality of probably any job, but also in teaching. Have very strict procedures and follow through with them, but let your kids know that you care. I feel like I'm constantly reminding myself and my students that like the reason that I have these expectations of you is because I want you to be a successful adult and a successful person. And you know, when you don't finish things and you don't do things well and you don't treat people respectfully, none of those things are going to get you where you want to go in life. You know, your boss is not going to want to hire people who don't finish stuff. They're not going to want to hire somebody who is disrespectful to them or doesn't show up on time. You know, like I'm trying to help you learn these skills now so that you can do whatever it is that you want to do with your life. And there are kids who genuinely like are not taught right from wrong, who are not taught how to be respectful, who've never seen an example of somebody who gets up and goes to work on time every day and is responsible and pays their bills, you know. So you can kind of be an example to kids of somebody who does those things, and you just want to make sure you have integrity and you're always, you know, showing them that you have their best interest at heart. It takes a lot of time your first year. Like I had mentioned, I was a 60% employee, so that meant that I taught first, second, and third period. I was technically done at like 11:30 or 11:40 or something like that. I stayed every day until like 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, writing lesson plans, you know, planning for the next day, doing research on the internet, finding worksheets, finding what I thought would be, you know, the best way to teach, and, you know, having multiple lesson plans, trying out different things. And I only taught 8th grade US history. I just taught one subject, but I spent just as much time planning as I did teaching. And so, you know, while I was bummed that I only had a part-time position that first year, it set me up well. As you move on in your teaching career, you're never gonna have that much time to put into your lesson planning ever again. So if you happen to have that time your first year, put in the work ahead of time, save all those lesson plans, make a file, print them out, make binders. All right, well, thank you so much for your questions. I loved answering them. There are even more, and I totally want to answer them. I just feel like I've taken up a ton of your time at this point, so we'll have to do this again soon. If you have any other questions, leave them below and I can maybe just like answer them in a typing form. So be on the lookout for my next video, and I will see you soon. Bye.